In this lecture, we will discuss the importance of data to the science of behavior analysis. Data collection and visual analysis is the cornerstone of applied behavior analysis. Without data, we cannot make objective decisions about behavior. Without objective decisions, we are not a science. Visual analysis refers to the practice in behavior analysis of plotting data on graphs and using those graphs to analyze behavior change. Behavior analysis does not use statistical analysis, as many of the other social sciences do, but rather focus on the individual behavior change as demonstrated through changes in data paths on graphs. Before we can begin collecting data, we must have a clear and objective definition of the target behavior. The target behavior must be defined in an unambiguous and directly measurable way. For this reason, definitions like eating healthy or be friendly would not be behavioral definitions that someone in ABA would use. Rather, we might say, consume 2 servings of fruit a day, or respond to text messages within 10 minutes of receipt. These are things we can directly observe and measure, and therefore can be monitored. We call this type of specific definition an operational definition. Why should we be so concerned about data? Well, without clear and objective data, we can never make clear and correct predictions about a phenomenon. We can't effectively show progress or areas of deficit. Without data, we are just assuming or basing our decisions on subjective measures that may or may not reflect the actual phenomenon in question. Behavior analysis takes its cues from the natural sciences. We want to be able to accurately describe a phenomenon in objective terms that can be replicated in further research. As previously mentioned, ABA focuses on individual behavior and visual analysis of results, rather than statistical analysis used in most of the social sciences. We call the type of experimental design used single subject or within subject design. In this type of design, one person or animal acts as his or her own control condition. In group design, we have a control group, which is the one that doesn't receive the treatment or experimental condition, and the experimental group, the ones that do receive it. And then the data from those 2 groups are compared, usually through statistical analysis, to determine whether an effect was achieved. In behavior analysis, since we see behavior as occurring only at the level of the individual, we don't want to compare groups. We want to see what happens to the individual. Behavior is complex and affected by each individual's unique history, so comparing one person's results with another person's results will not give us the full picture. Common terms used in behavioral research and experimental designs are baseline and intervention phases. Baseline data refers to the data collected before the initiation of the intervention or experimental condition. This is typically the control condition in single subject design. It tells us what the behavior looked like before the intervention started. The intervention refers to the period of time something is added or started to affect the behavior. This is the experimental condition in single subject design. To ensure that the data collected is accurate, there are a few pieces to keep in mind. Make sure that the definitions of the target behaviors are clear and unambiguous. In this example, what does good mean? How could you accurately measure that? It would be better to say, I will do my chores each day and help my sister with her homework 2 times a week. This is clear and measurable, and it's objective. Additionally, if you are using an instrument to measure behavior, you must make sure it is working correctly. If you are measuring your weight using a broken scale, you will not have accurate data. Visual analysis, or graphical analysis, is a very important part of ABA. Graphs allow us to inspect the data in a way that is more precise than just looking at a list of numbers. We can identify trends. Is it creeping up or down? Easily identify areas where unintended variables might be affecting behavior. Are there big spikes or drops intermittently, and why? And using graphs can also be reinforcing. Using graphs within a self-management project can be particularly reinforcing as you see progress occurring, even if it feels like you aren't moving forward. Seeing progress visually can motivate a person to continue or motivate them to put more effort into their plan. Graphs can also act as a cue or an antecedent in a self-management project, as they can remind you to engage in some of the intervention behaviors.